I'm here with Sara Herandi, the founder of dejalife, which is a Ayurveda brand. And as you know, the main concept of this whole summit is to assemble a wide diversity of thoughts and perspectives on what's going on. And I thought that the Ayurvedic perspective, which is like a very ancient practice, would be really interesting to present. So here is Sara representing Ayurveda. What would you, like to someone who's never heard of the concept before, how would you explain Ayurveda?
So the meaning of Ayurveda as the word is life science. So it's really kind of one of the oldest and most holistic medicine systems in the world, dating back 5,000 years from India. And it really kind of incorporates a lot of different aspects that feed into your daily life. So from herbal medicine and food, yoga and meditation, your daily routine. It really kind of touches on many different aspects. And what I think is so beautiful about it is it really kind of is us going back to our roots, looking back to nature and back to the things that are kind of good for us.
Okay, and so you said yoga is part of Ayurveda. How does yoga relate to Ayurveda?
So yoga and Ayurveda, they all date back from the same. It's kind of like the sister science of Ayurveda. So they actually all come from the same scriptures. And the really kind of core essence of all of this is about bringing yourself back to balance. And so it's all about taking your mind, your body, your spirit back to balance. And the idea is that when you're in balance, that is health. And when you find yourself in imbalance, that's when sickness can really occur. So you kind of need to have your body in balance for building up your immunity.
Okay, and so when you're mentioning them coming from the original same scriptures, what scriptures are we talking? What is source for this?
So they're kind of Sanskrit scriptures from 5,000 years ago, where all this kind of science stems from.
Okay, and how do they approach the mind-body connection?
So the mind-body connection is really, really important in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is, as I said, very holistic, and it looks at the mind, the body, and the spirit. And the idea is that if your mind is sick, then that is when your body can become sick too. And so it's really the definition of how do you bring all of those three together. And so something that's very important in Ayurveda, and one of the really important practices, is meditation, because that kind of really brings your mind into balance. And, you know, you can do many different ways. So Vedic meditation is one type, but I think something that we can really kind of take from this ancient science and help us today, and to help us kind of reduce our stress and boost our immunity, is making sure we can get a daily meditation in. And, you know, there's lots of different types, as I said, that you can try, but just really trying to get that in early in the morning.
Nice. Okay, I would like to come back to that, so I'll set a bookmark there. But
Yes.
how are you seeing the Ayurvedic principles applying to what's going on right now?
One thing that I think is really kind of interesting to look at is the kind of idea that there's a lot of kind of fear and stress today, and obviously most of the stuff we read about in the press it's really generating a lot of fear. And the problem with that is that it actually brings down our immunity. And so if our immunity is low, that is when we can get sick. So it's kind of a bit of a vicious cycle with the pandemic and everything that's going on today. But the idea is if we can kind of feel the stress and the fear, but not cling on to it, so that we can kind of move past it, then that's going to help us kind of get back to health. And the idea behind Ayurveda is that when stress is minimal and the kind of energy can flow through our body in a better way, then that's when we can like boost our immune system.
Nice. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that the core perspective on what's going on is a mindset perspective from Ayurveda. It's not letting the fear get to you. I know that turmeric is pretty important in the Indian traditions, and I've been seeing a lot of that being mentioned about immunity.
Very trending.
What you're saying is the core is in the mindset.
Yes, core is in the mindset, and there are kind of a lot of practices that we can put into use today that can help us as well. So kind of going back to the different elements, daily routine is something that's really important, and that's really kind of used in Ayurveda. And so just the fact of having a routine, especially now when there's so much uncertainty, can really help, and that can help kind of balance our mind, body and spirit. And so kind of trying to get things in order in the morning is really important. So trying to have a strong like morning routine that kind of either boost your energy. So maybe you wake up in a good mood, and having a morning routine is going to help you bring that throughout the day. Or if you wake up and maybe you're feeling kind of more stressed and anxious, it's like, how can you balance that? And so different things that Ayurveda uses that can help with those things. So starting the day with a glass of hot water kind of is very calming and helps detoxify things. Other things like waking up early is really important. So the concept with Ayurveda is that we should be asleep when it's dark and waking up when the sun rises, because that's kind of what nature intended for us humans. And so kind of trying to stick to that as much as possible, especially, you know, now when we don't have to be in the office at a certain time, it can be tempting to sleep in late, but Ayurveda would suggest that you try and kind of wake up early. And then another routine in Ayurveda is called tongue scraping, and it might sound weird, but it's kind of the practice of scraping your tongue, because we eliminate a lot of toxins in the night that kind of build up, and they're eliminated through our mouth and lie on our tongue. So kind of getting rid of those so that they don't kind of enter back into our system is quite an important thing in Ayurveda. Another thing is called oil pulling, and so you put sesame oil in your mouth. You can use other types of oils too, and you swish it around for about 10 minutes. You could be making your breakfast at the same time, and the idea is that it's good for your teeth and gums, but it also helps release stress, because we hold a lot of stress in our jaw, and so that can really help with that. And then, as we kind of mentioned on meditation, having a morning meditation practice would be really important too.
Okay, so that's 5 different items from the Ayurveda manual.
Yeah, so that's all kind of building into routine and trying to have a routine, and those are kind of things you can do in the morning, and just like kind of setting up your day so that you know when your lunch is. Sipping hot water throughout the day is really good too for kind of detoxifying, and then in the evening having like an evening kind of routine or ritual as well. So trying to, and common things like turning off your phone before you go to bed, like not bringing that into the bedroom, having like an evening
They had that back in 5,000.
Sorry?
They had that back in 5,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's come from the scriptures. No Instagram before bed. Yeah, having
Nice.
like a relaxing bath that kind of like brings your heart rate down, and those kind of things before bed is really important too.
Yeah, and why I think this is really powerful is, I mean, inside the biohacker community and the health optimization, self-improvement community, the morning rituals is a big part of it, going all the way to Tony Robbins and everything, priming, setting your day up, that kind of thing. But the interesting thing about the Ayurvedic perspective is that it's a principle called the lindy effect. The older an idea is, the more likely it is to survive even longer. So if a 5,000-year-old idea is probably going to last another 5,000 years. So it's really interesting to hear that. And
it's also interesting because as old as these are, there's now kind of increasing modern day research to back up a lot of these ideas. The mind-body connection, obviously there's a lot of research into that too, and even these kind of different foods and ingredients. So it's interesting that kind of modern science is catching up with those old ways of thinking.
Agreed. And one thing that I haven't heard about the sesame oil pulling, but I have heard about the coconut oil pulling.
The coconut oil works too. You can use it, kind of both work. It's just a preference of the taste and texture that you like.
Okay. And how religiously or militantly do you follow those routines? Are you drinking your own champagne, drinking your own turmeric chai thing?
Yeah, as much as possible. So I'd actually say one of the good things that's come out of this kind of self-isolation is that I already had like quite a strong morning routine. So I'm always like waking up early around 7 a.m. I always work out first thing in the morning, have a glass of hot water, and try to meditate. But the thing with kind of busy everyday life is that you're always rushing, trying to get to a meeting, and so if there's one thing that goes, it's my morning meditation. And so that's the good thing about now, is that I've kind of had the time. There's no excuses now, so it's been making a big difference.
Yep, same here. Are you using any kind of like technology, be it pen and paper or app or anything to check those items off, or you just do them via routine?
No, they've just kind of become a habit. So now it's just it just becomes
Autopilot.
a habit. Yeah, autopilot, exactly.
Okay. And what is your specific meditation practice? Is it Ayurvedic meditation or it's something else?
Yeah, so I do Vedic meditation, which uses a mantra, and you're supposed to do 20 minutes 2 times a day. So 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes, kind of late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah.
It's been tough. It's tough, to be honest, trying to get the second 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
But having more time now, I'm managing to do that more days than not. But yeah, it takes some practice and it takes, a lot of kind of self-discipline.
Grit. Yes, agreed. I'm doing all right with the morning meditations. The afternoon, now it's like the problem that we had of like rushing off into the day is now like when you get into the flow, it's a little bit hard to like block that time out.
I know, but then I realized I probably need it more than ever then, around like 3-4 o'clock when you've been, like you're at home, you're working or you're trying to do things. I think it's good to like give yourself a break and your mind a break and kind of reset for the rest of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. So what would Ayurveda or what suggest us to change in terms of our eating habits? Any tips there?
Yeah, so food is so important in Ayurveda. Food is medicine, and so they kind of say that the pharmacy is in the kitchen, and that those two they shouldn't be separated, food and medicine. And also digestion is really important for immunity in general. And so kind of making sure that we're eating the right foods, and the kind of concepts behind Ayurveda, it's not just about what we eat, it's about kind of how and when we eat too. So making sure we eat like a really varied diet, trying to eat seasonal, because if you're eating foods that have been picked or have been stored for a while, then they lose a lot of their nutrients. Eating cooked food is really important. So I know that there's like a kind of craze with the raw food diet, but Ayurveda says that we digest cooked food much better, and so we should be eating warming food, especially kind of in winter, and when we're trying to boost our immunity and keep flus away. Eating kind of cold foods would be the worst thing for that. It also talks about how the cooking process is really important. So we kind of, we're preparing the food that we're about to eat, and we can kind of be a bit more mindful in what we're eating. And it's very important in terms of like timing as well. So the main meal of the day should be at lunchtime. That's when your digestive fire is at its strongest. It kind of coincides with when the sun is at its peak as well. And so it's kind of really suggested that you might have like a light breakfast, or maybe you intermittent fast until lunch, have a big lunch, and then you eat really light in the evening, or you don't eat much past 7 o'clock.
And
also just making sure that you have time to fully digest your meal before you eat again. So I'm very guilty of the afternoon snacking, but Ayurveda says that's a big no-no.
Okay. And so is fasting is part of the Ayurvedic tradition?
It's not like written in stone, but a lot of people and a lot of Ayurvedic experts will tell you it's better to fast, eat really light and try not to eat, in the evening or late at night. And then you can eat something small for breakfast, but you can intermittent fast till lunchtime.
Okay, and so all of those tips that you just gave there, they're like general Ayurvedic diet tips? General
Ayurvedic diet tips, and that also helps with immunity. So for Ayurveda, it kind of goes hand in hand, because Ayurveda takes such a preventative approach. And so kind of keeping your immunity strong is basically in line with, having a good health in general.
Ooh. Okay, so switching up, what have you been investing in or spending time, resources, money, energy on as a shift in terms of what's going on?
I would say food. So I like to kind of buy healthy foods. I've been like very into that anyway, but now given that we're eating every single meal at home, and having more time to be able to prepare that, I'm like really enjoying getting back into cooking. I love cooking vegan food, spending more time like looking for recipes online, and so just kind of like enjoying that, which has been good.
Okay, so no grass-fed beef in Ayurveda.
It suggests that you should be more vegetarian if you can, but it's kind of just dependent on the person. Yeah. Exactly.
They're sacred. So what do you have any kind of like regrets or any kind of things which have modified your perspective, or things that you wish you could have told yourself like 6 months ago, things like that?
I'd actually look back only to like a week or so ago when I was at the early stages of self-isolation, and I kind of think I let everything kind of get to me a bit with, you're reading so many things in the news and there's so many different perspectives out there, and it's kind of like a massive overload of information. And I think I got a bit kind of caught up in the fear and the panic, and kind of like let that get, and I kind of let that get to me. And so, I mean, I wouldn't really say it's a regret. It's more kind of a like lesson I've learned. But I think it's good to kind of feel the pain, acknowledge it, and then like let it release, rather than, Ayurveda says this a lot as well, is if you're kind of suppressing emotions and you're suppressing, fear or pain, then it kind of gets stored in your body and it's going to come out as illness later. So I think, feeling that allowed me to release it, and I feel kind of stronger and more positive since then. But the lesson, I think the lesson for me was to try not to get too caught up in, it's easier said than done, but not to get too caught up in all the fear, and just managing to kind of disconnect from everything that's going on a little bit.
Nice. And that leads into what's happening in your sort of business life. You've just gotten into a accelerator with Deja.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I just got accepted into an accelerator program in London by Huckletree called Alpha. It's called Alpha 7. And yeah, it's kind of, I guess it's funny because it starts properly next week. It's supposed to be in a shared workspace. And so obviously now it's going to be all remote. So we had welcome drinks yesterday via Zoom, which was interesting. But I think it's going to be great because, now more than ever, community is like so important. And so I'm going to be connected with, I think there's 7 or 8 other founders who are in the same industry trying to innovate. And we can kind of help and support each other when we're at similar stages in our journey.
Beautiful. And if you want to share a bit of background about Deja, what's the concept there? What's the value proposition? What's the mission?
So Deja offers natural products and holistic lifestyle guidance based on the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda that I've been talking about. And the concept is really to kind of make Ayurveda more accessible to a wider audience, and to kind of, today's stresses kind of knock our body and our brains out of balance, making us sick. A lot of things that we have to deal with. And so, how can we look back to this ancient science and make it relevant for today in terms of our like physical, mental, and spiritual health?
Okay, nice. And everyone, that's going to be deja.life, deja.life.
Yes, thanks.
Just a plug there. To wrap up, what has been your biggest learning or takeaway from this experience? Was it that moment a week ago when you were just a bit overwhelmed, or have there been other things?
I think for me, it's quite eye-opening to see how something so kind of like physically small can have such like a huge global impact on everyone on this planet, and kind of like just shows how we're all really connected. And I think the other thing is it's kind of another reminder not to take things for granted, things like our health and our freedom that we do take for granted because we're so busy every day. It puts everything into perspective.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you so much for being part of what we're doing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex.
Views. And we will continue at the next episode.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye.